Welcome to another edition of Minor Obsession. Scott Lieberman here, and we've got a fun show for you today. We're talking to Travis Haney, who's an analyst on the defensive side for the Charlotte 49ers football team and former ESPN reporter. He's got a really cool story, really cool look into the football team and kind of what this season has meant. We talked to him last week, so prior to the bowl being announced, but you'll hear that a little bit and kind of his take on the bowl season and what to expect from the team. Really fun stuff there. But, of course, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't heard, we are officially in a bowl. We were named to the first bowl of bowl season in the Bahamas Bowl. We will be taking on Buffalo, and that will kick off bowl season, 2 o'clock on ESPN, Friday, December 19th. Hopefully some of you are able to go out to the Bahamas and support the Niners. Otherwise, make sure you watch it on TV. Should be really awesome. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we can go 1-0 with our first bowl appearance ever in program history. But a great season nonetheless. We'll be talking about the season and previewing the game as we get a little bit closer. But for now, we just want to continue to give you some of these interviews. This is our last one with the team as of now, and I'm sure we'll talk to them again after bowl season has been completed. So with all that said, continue listening to Minor Obsession. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all that fun stuff. We'll have more on basketball and all the other sports coming up here soon. And enjoy our interview with Travis. All right, welcome to another edition of Minor Obsession. We got a special guest with us today, Mr. Travis Haney, former ESPN and now defensive analyst.
You seem so sure. You seem so sure of what the title is there. No, I'm excited to be interviewed. I don't get interviewed anymore. I'm the behind the guy. I'm behind the camera or the mic guy now.
I like to consider you the behind the scenes media ninja. I feel like a lot of the national attention we're getting may have a little Travis Haney sprinkled in there with Club Lit being the main driver.
I said part of my job is to just be there when Will does something crazy and try and capture the moment as best I can. And, I guess I have some relationships that are still hanging on from when I was in the media world. And I definitely try and mention what we're doing to different people and try and get them interested. But the reality is the story's that good anyway. Whether I'm here or not, people would be very interested in a first-time bowl-eligible program, a coach who's young and dynamic. It's frankly, it's all the things that I was attracted to initially when this staff and Coach Healy were at Austin Peay. It's the same dynamic, the same energy, the same unique story. You had a turnaround of a long losing streak there. You have establishing a relatively new program here. So I'm happy to help. If I can help get the message out there, if I can help us to become more relevant, whether it's in Charlotte or beyond. It's been really fun to be a part of.
Yeah, before we dive into Charlotte-specific stuff, let's talk about you for a minute, because some of the hardcore fans might know
talk about yourself,
your history, but a lot of casual fans or listeners to the podcast might be wondering, who the heck is this guy, and what's he doing here at Charlotte? So, long time media journalist. Talk a little bit about your past there.
Yeah, so I worked for different newspapers for about 15 years. I covered South Carolina for a while. Eventually got a job to cover Oklahoma football in 2011, and then ESPN hired me in 2012 to be a national college football writer. And it's kind of a dream come true job. You wait your whole life hoping you get an opportunity like that, and went to a bunch of games and got to know coaches and was on the sideline for games like the Kick Six game is the first one that comes to mind. But definitely just kind of an enchanted position and ride to be able to be at ESPN and achieve that dream. But as a lot of people know, ESPN kind of has changed, and with people cord cutting and using streaming services, and I'm one of them, there's just not the subscription money coming in. So I was one of about 600 people who was let go in 2016 and 2017. And around that time, didn't really have anything else to do, had heard about this 30-year-old head coach who was at Austin Peay, and thought, whatever I'm going to be doing next, I'm probably going to need to know a young up-and-coming coach. And so I went up there and had lunch with Will Healy, and we had a good lunch. I'm not going to say it was just like, we hit it off. We had a good connection, like you do with a lot of people. Didn't think a ton of it. And it was probably in August. It was about a month later. I went back up there with a friend, and we sat, and I talked to the AD for a while, who was a 35-year-old guy. By the way, as an aside, the AD who hired Will, Ryan Ivey, is the AD at Stephen F. Austin. And as we talk right now, it's the night after Stephen F. Austin won at Cameron. Mm-hmm. So we were all rooting really hard for them last night. But Ryan was a 35-year-old AD who had the what was the word, the phrase that Mike Hill used here, the confidence, the institutional courage, I think that was his phrase. I think that was the same thing that Ryan Ivey did to hire Will. He was a 35-year-old AD to hire a 30-year-old head coach, and got to know them a little bit more that day, and went back and kept going back and kind of get invested in these people, first with Will, then with the rest of the staff, then eventually with the players, and was kind of involved in this journey with them at that point. I went to 6 games the first season. They went 0-11. At that point, I was just trying to go back because I didn't want to miss the first win. I was like, I've been to so many games, I don't want to miss the first win now. So I didn't know much about the Ohio Valley Conference, and I thought, maybe they're better than Eastern Illinois. I don't know. Maybe they're better than Southeast Missouri. I'm not sure. So I kept going back, and they played really close in some games, but they didn't win one. And then the next year, in 2017, I knew something special was about to happen. I know something you guys have documented a lot is that recruiting class, the number 1 recruiting class in FCS football that he was able to get, that the staff was able to get off of an 0-11 season. How do you do that? Mm-hmm. And so I knew there was talent coming in. They were close already. I knew something special was going to happen. So I tried to recruit a documentary crew to come capture the moments of what was, I thought, going to be a special moment or special season, and just wasn't able to do that. And there was a lot of interest, but when people have to spend their own money, they become a little less aggressive, I guess, in what they do. So I wound up just picking up a camera myself, and I'd never really used I don't have a film background, but I recorded and filmed as much as I could during that 8-4 season. They end the nation's longest losing streak, a 29-game losing streak, wind up winning 8 of 9 games against FCS competition, and I have about 70 hours of footage from that. Tried to shop that, had a lot of interest again, and ran into kind of the same issue. Even talked to the Rocks production company about trying to make kind of a 30 for 30, and tried all these different things, and it didn't really work out, and kind of came to the conclusion that, you know what, if Will Healy is going to be as successful as I think he's going to be, I bet that's going to be valuable down the road to have 70 hours of his first kind of big season, his first big moment as a head coach. So that was what got me in the door initially, just kind of a fate chance meeting, and then just like so many people around here or so many people in the state of Tennessee, just kind of magnetized by this guy, his energy, his positivity, and just the way that he runs a program. I was really lucky at ESPN to be able to meet and be around as many head coaches as I was, because that gave me the context and the kind of the understanding that this guy's different. The way he does things is different, and it wound up being something that I really wanted to be a part of. So it was after the second win in that 2017 season, I went to Will and I said, hey, man, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know where you're going to go next, but I cannot imagine sitting at home and watching on my couch what you do, the success that you have where you go. I want to go too. And he said, okay. And so in 2017, this was all kind of born. So I moved here. I was covering the Tennessee Titans for The Athletic for the past year. After bouncing around to a couple of different jobs, I wound up working for The Athletic and had a great experience there. Just frankly didn't feel the passion for what I had done in the past. Like I wasn't as energized by being a sports writer as I was in the past, because I had gotten a taste of something else. And being around Will and that team in 2017 was probably my number 1 favorite experience, being around a team and just feeling invested to that point, and believing in a head coach and believing in a program, believing in philosophies of trying to win and trying to kind of mature and evolve as people, like all of us, coaches and players alike, young people trying to learn and figure out what we're doing. It was just it was frankly a life-changing experience for me and something that I wanted to be a part of again. So I quit my job covering the NFL in July and told Will, hey, I hope you got something for me because I'm coming. And they found, as you said so eloquently at the top, a defensive analyst job. It is funny. So Will, this is what I was told. I wasn't here, obviously, but Will walked into a staff meeting and Marcus West and Brandon Cooper, the coordinators, had a short list of people that they wanted to hire as an analyst to come in and help them with the program. Now that with an expanded staff, they were able to hire some of those positions that they hadn't in the past, and they had a short list of people. And Will walked into the meeting and said, hey, I know you want to do this, but this is the way that we can get Trav here. And all of them looked at Will and said, we're good with that. Great. And that meant a lot to me, that it wasn't just my friendship and relationship with Will. It was my friendship with the other coaches who were there as well. And Marcus and I are extremely close, and Coop and Sean Dawkins and, all the other coaches who were there at Austin Peay. We have, when you go through an 0-11 season together, you have a different level, a different bond than a lot of coaching staffs do. And I was around it enough to understand the depth of how hard that is. And so to enjoy the triumph that last year, we're very close. And to be a part of this with all of them again is really special to me. And we're trying to do something unique. And I've been lucky to have some people reach out, like the guy who's Ed Ogeron's right-hand guy is a former radio dude in Baton Rouge, and he was really nice to text me when I got the job and say, hey, that's really cool. I love that you're working with those guys and helping. And I said, you know what? I love what you – and this is before LSU had the season they're having right now. But I said, as much as I would love to work at a place like LSU or Alabama or Clemson or Tennessee or wherever, I love where we are because we're getting to do something so unique. How many chances you get to try and build a new college football program? And that doesn't really happen very often at all. And so I think we're really embracing being the first in a lot of different things, and to have the season that we've had to this point, and knock on wood to continue it. It's meant a lot to me personally, just because of what I've been through to lose jobs and kind of find my way to this, but also just to be a part of the broader community with you guys and just sharing the joy of the post game against Marshall, and just see what it means to people who really wanted this to happen, not just to found a college football program, to establish a team, but to have success. And I think that means a lot to all of us in this building.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're kind of driving on your own highway, because a lot of coaches and players move to being in broadcast journalism afterwards. Not very many broadcast journalists move to being coaches after they're done with their broadcast careers, or maybe taking a pause. You may pick that up later in life.
Who knows?
But
there are some examples, like Lee Jenkins is a guy, I think he works for the Clippers maybe. Mm-hmm. John Hollinger was the NBA. I think there's been a couple of guys
Mike
he worked
Mayock
for.
Type person.
I'm trying to think of, but he was in football before, I think, too. Yeah. I'm thinking of like writers specifically.
Sure.
Chris Snow was a hockey writer in Boston who went to work for the Minnesota Wild. So it has happened. I don't know that it's happened in college football that much, though. I mentioned the guy Derek at LSU. But yeah, there was no – I don't know that a lot of people that I worked with as peers would really understand it if they didn't hear how passionate I was about it. I mean, I was covering the Titans last year, and people would ask me questions about Derrick Henry or – just covering the NFL. And it's fine. But I would much rather talk about what Will and what we had done at Austin Peay. And it was just, you catch yourself because it's the thing that was lighting me up. It was the thing that I was passionate about. And when you feel that way, I think you're obligated to kind of pursue that. And I was willing to do that kind of to the extreme, because I had been through a period of instability, losing my job at ESPN, and had found stability again at The Athletic. But what good was it if I wasn't really energized and into it? So I quit and kind of walked into this unknown. I guess it says a lot about sports media that I would enter the coaching profession and feel more stable in the long run. But a lot of that's because of who I work with and work for, and Will has become one of my best friends. And to share this with friends, and I mean the big bear hugs that we all, when we find each other on the field after every one of these wins, and we all work so hard every day to try and make this happen, that you just don't take for granted who you're working with. And I remember in camp, this being my first experience doing this, you're kind of tired, you're going through the camp grind, and I remember walking out to the field, and you just see your friends, you see people that you've been through wars with, and it just lifts you right back up, and you remember why you're doing it, and you remember that you're kind of doing it for your brothers, for your friends, as we say around here. And then I think that's extended for me as I've gotten to know the players, as I've started to develop a relationship with some of the players, especially the older guys. You start doing it for them too, and that's been probably one of the most exciting parts of this job. That, I mean, I knew most of the staff when I got here, so that part of the transition was really easy. But getting to know this group of players and trying to tell their stories, and Alex Highsmith, who is having a All-America type season from his background as a walk-on, and trying to, really, really wanted him to be a finalist for that Burlsworth Trophy, the former walk-on trophy. He was a semifinalist. He was in the final 10, but not in the final 3, which I believe he should have been. But just feeling like you're investing in the people, not just the coaches, but also the players here, has been really meaningful to me. We're all going to go, as we talk here today, we're all going to go to a Thanksgiving meal tonight, and I'm sure we'll share about things that we're thankful for. And I feel compelled to speak up, because this is a special group. This is something I very much wanted to be a part of, and it's been fulfilling in every way that you could imagine.
So from a skill perspective, what skills have transferred from the sports journalism side that you think have really helped the team? And then what things have you really learned over the last couple of months moving into a new profession?
Yeah. First, strictly from the analyst position, I was telling you guys on the practice field earlier, I wasn't sure. Like, I didn't know how it would translate. Marcus West was telling me, I think you're going to be really valuable because you're going to look at it in a different way than coaches would. And I hoped that he was right, but I didn't know that until I actually got into it. And my extent of watching film in the past was the NFL had kind of a website that you could go on and you could move stuff around, but it wasn't like the true film study, the programs, the Exos, the DV Sport programs that coaches use. So this was my first experience with, there's literally one of those remotes sitting right beside me right now. And so it was my first time like going back and forth and the cut-ups and shifting through plays and trying to break down tendencies and really diving into it. And I've really enjoyed it. So what I wind up doing is I start advanced work on the next opponent. So my Old Dominion report was done Sunday. The Sunday of the game, I go, I don't know if I'm saying that clearly. The Sunday of the game week, so 6 days before that game, I will have my report done and go in and meet with Marcus West on Sunday night and tell him, here's every tendency I saw, here are things that I think could be problems matchup-wise for us, and here's what I think of their personnel, quarterback, running back, receiver, tight ends. And it's nothing that Marcus and the coaches, they're brilliant. It's nothing that they couldn't figure out on their own. But my theory is if I can give them a head start on the week, if I can cut down in their time so they know what they're looking for, then there's some benefit in that. So you're watching it in a similar way that you would have in the past. You have a program that helps you watch it faster and be able to move through it faster. But yeah, they've been happy, I think. And it what's fun? It's satisfying to see when you see things that you believe are problem areas, when you see things that you think are keys to the game, and then they play themselves out. It's been pretty validating from that experience, especially when we win the game. I walked into Marcus's office last Sunday before the Marshall game, and I said, this is on the quarterback. If the quarterback's into it, we're going to have a hard time. because their skill players were really good. They'd just gotten back the Obialo guy, the Oklahoma State transfer, and matchup-wise in terms of their athleticism versus us, it was going to be tough. But the quarterback had played up and down all season long, and it really just depended to me on kind of which one we got. And I think the elements helped potentially a lot with that. But it was something that we saw pretty early on. He throws a pick on the second play of the game, and you're thinking, this is exactly what we talked about. This is playing into exactly what we had thought or hoped. And so it's been fun to be a part of that process. I guess it'd be a better question for them to know if it's really, truly been a benefit. But I've really enjoyed it. I'm kind of sad I don't have another game, at least immediately, for next week. So whenever we get that bowl opponent, it'll be fun to dive into them and try and learn as fast as we can about them. But I hope I get to do this in the future. You know, I don't know what I'm going to be doing here. Hopefully I'll be here a long time with these guys, but I've really enjoyed that aspect of it. And then there's the kind of social media part of it. I walked in the door, and the second day they came to me and they said, well, in the past we've had 4 or 5 people who contributed to the Twitter and Instagram accounts. We'd really like to streamline it. Can you just take it all over? And I said, well, okay. I mean, I hadn't anticipated that at all. But I had run my own account, obviously, in the past. Being a college football reporter for ESPN, you know, you're constantly kind of cranking things out, opinions and analysis and whatever else. So it wasn't a totally unfamiliar thing to me, but I've had to learn a lot on the fly in terms of, you know, what content to produce, how to make it interesting, how to convey our message, how to touch. We're having a lot of fun. We want to get that across, that we are having a lot of fun. So knowing Will the way that I do, I think that helps a lot. So you ask, like, what translates. Some of it's just what translates from when I was at Austin Peay. I was doing a lot of this stuff there, helping their staff in that 2017 season, but I wasn't in charge of it. I was just sort of contributing to it. But in a lot of ways, it prepared me for this. Like I said, I'd never used a video camera before. Well, now I'm in a position where there's really no one else to shoot something. I'll just go out and shoot it. We had a 5:30 practice during the middle of the season, and I shot it. The finish video that plays before the fourth quarter, all the weight room scenes, I shot. So any of that stuff, I just want to jump in and whatever I think I can help do, I want to do. I've done photos. I've learned how to use Photoshop. I want to learn how to video edit between now and next season. So I think there's a lot of evolution and adapting on my part, but I'm really enjoying it, and it's great to see the fan interaction. It's great to see the energy, the enthusiasm that people have for it is translating in how they're responding to what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to win, but even early in the season when we were 2-2 and things like that, there was a noticeable difference in fan interaction online. And some of it may be just a new team and excited about it, but a lot of it I feel like is some of the social media creation there.
But we were excited about it too, you know? I mean, and that's the thing to me is Will and everybody in this building, we try and be pretty genuine. We try and be pretty authentic in what we do. And I think that's kind of the extension of what we would want our social media presence to be. And we want people to be a part of it. You know, even we asked on Sunday, our marketing folks from the athletic department asked for people to submit their videos from the field, and then we included some of those videos in the broader video that we did capping the game. So I'm the one who came up with the hashtag your team, but I mean it. I mean, we want people, whether you're a Charlotte grad or not, we want people in this city, particularly the alums, to feel like they're very much a part of what we're doing, and we want that to be a genuine sentiment, not just something that it's not a PR branding stunt. Like we want this to feel like your program, and I feel like people have taken ownership to some extent. We want more of that. We want where it's easy to fill the stadium every week, and I think we'll get there. I've daydreamed about this. I don't know if you guys have. To end the season the way that we did, I think there's going to be an incredible demand for tickets going into next season, and I think that's a pretty great thing, you know, to end it like that, and to build toward what we're going to do with, you know, hopefully more players, more talent, and just a lot of really good energy going into 2020. I think the sky's the limit. obviously for what this program can do, but specifically in that fan component, I think there's going to be a lot of people interested in what this program is going to be in year 2 if this is what we did in the first year.
Yeah, it seems like sports, corporations, regardless, whatever, one of the most advantageous competitive advantages is culture. And the culture set here, like you mentioned just a minute ago, is just genuine. We are just happy, excited to be here, and want to live this with the fans and anybody who wants to take a part.
And that starts with Will, right?
Yep.
I mean, to me, but it winds up just being an extension, everybody, whether it's players. I remember when you guys came in August and the players all come over and introduce themselves, and they're still doing it today. And I think they are probably different with that than they were then. I think they're more genuine in how they're interacting and communicating with people who come to practice. I think they're not just going down the handshake line, so to speak. They're looking at you, they're engaging and saying, thanks for coming, appreciate you guys being here, thanks for what you do. You know, I think it's contagious. You know, I think energy and culture can be contagious in a positive way or a negative way. And I think, as Will said when you guys interviewed him a few minutes ago, that going through the slump in the middle of the season, I think, made us appreciate again how hard it is to win and the things that are important in our program. And we really worked hard, all of us, coaches and players, to reinforce those culture pieces and what we thought was the little things that people don't see that are important. And I think those are showing up daily now, and are I think they are a factor, or are factors in winning.
So the one thing we like to end on, what is your favorite moment being a 49er so far?
I mean, it has to be Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, and this is going to be a funny footnote for me is, you know, it's 4th and 10, and my throat, I was taking like cold medicine, so I was dehydrated, and I had needed some water, and I walked down, and I called a timeout. I assumed we were going to line up for a field goal, and I'm walking down, I grab some water, and I look up on the video board, and I see Chris behind center, and I was trying to figure out, okay, we got one more timeout. Maybe what are we doing? Like, are we trying to get him offside? No, that doesn't make sense because it's 4th and 10. And then I thought, they're going to run a play. And as soon as I knew they were going to run a play, I knew exactly what was going to happen, because obviously Vic beat North Texas on a similar catch. He almost caught that one at the end of the middle game, which was a similar type situation at the end of the game. And he had dominated that dude for Marshall all day. I knew the ball was going to go up in the air, and you're hoping for a DPI or for Vic to do what he did. And so I watched it on the video board. I didn't even see it because I was turned the other way, and by the time they were going to get the snap off, I wouldn't have been able to see over the lineman. But just, I mean, just every one of the wins in this win streak, North Texas obviously was a huge turning point. I'll say one more off the field. Will and I, during that kind of turnaround part of the season, Will and I got our heads together, and we put together a leadership council of the 6 captains and 20 younger guys, because I thought it was really important that we think we have very special senior leadership in our captains. We want to make sure they're pouring into the younger guys so that next year or beyond we have the same level of leadership that we do right now. And so every Wednesday afternoon we get together for about an hour, and what I've been doing is I'll make a copy of like a John Maxwell leadership book, and it every week has like kind of a different virtue. Like last week was – 1 week was passion. 1 week was last week I think was positive attitude, which all these things kind of fit into what Will wants his program to be anyway. And I'll give out the things to the sheets to the guys, and they'll read them. And then they'll just initiate and have their own conversation. And Will and I are the only, quote, adults in the room, and we'll just kind of sit back, and we're not even really moderating it. We're just letting them go. And for me, here, some of the moments in that room in the past month, they let you know this was coming. Like, I am not surprised at all that we've won 4 straight games because of seeing the way that they've matured and grown up. The first week that we had it, Vic was very vocal in that room and saying a lot during that week, and then he goes out and torches North Texas and wins the game, and it's like there's a direct correlation there. And you're just seeing guys maturing before your very eyes. And it's just it's a really gratifying experience just to see that, I feel very fortunate to be here across the board, but to be in that room, and it's just special to see the way that guys share and the way that guys have kind of attached themselves to one another. And so when you see and hear this team talking about having a close bond and being tight-knit, a lot of it starts in that room. And I think that room is going to be a very important thing for us moving forward as we continue to develop that relationship and that leadership. But that has been really special to me is kind of seeing this entire evolution, obviously on the field, but off the field as well.
And I guess third on the list, but a distant third, would be seeing your cell phone videos pop up on SportsCenter. And
I texted somebody, I was like, what do you think the single season record is for iPhone videos on SportsCenter? But yeah, I mean, I love that because we're all getting talked about, and this is becoming what we want Charlotte football to be. And I mean, there's a reason why, independent of us being here, a lot of people looked at this job and said, that can be special. This can be a really special place. It was a coveted job. When and if it ever opened, it was going to be a highly sought-after job. And so the fact that we're here and we have this opportunity, and the fact that it's frankly happening, that this is actually happening, is not something that we take very lightly. And I mean, it's almost a year to the day right now that I first walked into. We're in Will Healy's office. The first time I walked in here was on December 5th, and it felt surreal then, and it kind of feels surreal now. But we're just going with it and doing everything we can to try and make this what we think it can be, and I think that's a very special thing.
So you can plead the fifth if you want, but were you the one who sent Stanford Steve a Charlotte shirt?
He actually called me out.
Yeah,
that's how that happened. I don't know if you know that. They had one of their podcasts on I can't remember what week it was, but I think we had already beaten North Texas, so maybe it was that week. Maybe I think it was probably the MTSU week. And I mean, Steve's a great friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. He was amazing to me in introducing me to people at ESPN. So we're close. We text often. But he teased me on their podcast and said I hadn't sent him anything yet.
I hadn't heard that.
And so, and truth be told, it was Will and Austin, one of the guys who works in the equipment room. They got the stuff together. Will wrote a handwritten note to Steve and to Bear, to Chris Felica, and we sent it out that next week. So I did not physically send it. I have sent him stuff in the past, but he did call me out by name for not sending him anything. So I tell you what, though, he got it that day. It was like a Thursday. He texted me. He said, I just got it. I'm going to wear it on – they do whatever that show, the betting show that they have on ESPN2. He wore it on that, and then he texted me and said, I'm not done yet. And then he wore it on SportsCenter with Van Pelt that night. So awesome. Definitely appreciate all the support from ESPN and beyond. I mean, it's been really cool to have Will be out there the way that he's been, and I think we just take a lot of pride in the fact that we're doing it. It's a lot of work, but it's the most fun I've ever had. I mean, I was on SportsCenter, like I used to be on SportsCenter, but now I'm on SportsCenter in a different way. And it's not about me anymore, and I'm good with that. Like, I'm totally good with that. I think this is way more fulfilling to have wins, literal and metaphorical. To have wins as a team is a lot more fun than just having wins personally.
Well, it's definitely, as fans, super exciting to watch the journey happen, and love to see the way this season finishes and then rolling into
not
next
done
year, how
yet.
it goes.
We got to finish this thing strong, and Will is not bashful, as you've noticed, and he has said for weeks his goal is not to just get to a bowl game, but to win a bowl game. And I think that's a really cool thing, that he sets the standard, he sets the goals, not just to get there and be happy that you're there, but to actually go out and win the game. So I think we're just excited to see, a win Saturday in Norfolk, and then go from there and figure out who we play and where we play and what day we play. And the one thing I'm probably hoping for more than anything there in a bowl matchup is the matchup itself. Is it a game that, I think I saw one of the projections was the Independence Bowl against North Carolina. I know a lot of people would have a lot of feels around here about that. good and bad. But a month of Will and Mac press conferences would be gold. It would be so fun because they're very close. They talked all the time. When Mac was at ESPN, he would call Will once a week when they were at Austin Peay. So they're very close. But something like that where you had a really compelling storyline that we could get behind and get more people talking about it, not just in Charlotte but nationally, that's what I'd be rooting for. But the fact that we're having this conversation at all is outstanding.
And Will is a lot stronger locker room dancer than Mac is.
Remember they showed his locker room dance
yeah.
after the South Carolina. That's what you're talking about.
We remember, yeah.
But that definitely would come up in a press conference. I mean, that's part of the stuff that would be –
we'd talk about it for a month for sure.
That would be gold.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be so much fun to do that for 2 or 3 weeks. And it's kind of like it doesn't matter where or when you're playing if you get a matchup like that. But, yeah, I mean, again, the fact that we're having these conversations around Thanksgiving and the holidays, where are we going to play, who are we going to play, that's exactly what we wanted. So this has been a really satisfying season in a lot of ways for us, and I hope it has been for fans as well.
Definitely has.
We are definitely satisfied.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Anytime.
Good catching up, and hopefully we'll have you on in the future to talk about what comes next.
I know, and we're going to find a way to even if we have to put you on the equipment truck, we're going to find a way to get you to the bowl game.
Hey, you documented it.
So
if
it winds up being the Bahamas, you're going to have to ride the equipment truck on a barge.
Sign me up.
We may have to get you to sign a waiver.
Is this a Dabo Sweeney punishment here you got going for us?
Yeah, if you got a personal foul in the last game. We've heard about your behavior at basketball games, so we're looking out. No, but we hope you can make the bowl game, and we hope a lot of our fans can. That's probably another one of our hopes, is that it's a game that's geographically pleasing enough where people can get to the game and show the conference and show the country how much people care about Charlotte football.
First bowl game ever, and hopefully first bowl win ever.
No question. I'm excited about it. I mean, again, to be having these conversations is everything that we could have asked for.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks again, Travis.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it, and look forward to what comes next. Go Niners.